Welcome to Radio Free South Africa. This is your host, Karen Smith. Tonight, we have a very, very sad story to tell you. We have already spoken a little about the white camps in South Africa, and tonight, I would like to tell you the story of a horrible event that happened on Friday night at the Munsieville camp. These people are not even safe in numbers. We have spoken before about how happy they are to be able to get into a camp because there is a certain safety in numbers. But from this event on Friday night, you will see that these poor people who have already been dispossessed of their jobs, their livelihoods, their homes, their possessions, their right to go to school, their right to education, to their own language, to their own history, and to a decent way of life. They've already been dispossessed of all of that, and they are still not safe. There seems to be a feeling in South Africa that even in these camps, white privilege prevails. So tonight, my guests are Lee Oxley-Dupré of South African Family Relief Project, Engli from A Million Stemmer for Steve, and Quentin from the WAS Foundation. These three organizations came together on Friday night and helped these people to go to safety, to be fed, to be cared for, with no idea how long the situation was going to continue. I would like us to all be very grateful for a miracle that does happen when there is a need in this world. These three organizations, disparate organizations, joined hands and made sure that the people from Munsieville were safe. Now, a lot of our listeners know about the white camps, but they don't know in particular about Munsieville. So I'm going to bring Lee Oxley-Dupré on first, because she and her South African Family Relief Project have been very closely involved with this camp from its early days. And you can hear the history of the camp, and then we will tell you about what happened on Friday night. Hello, Lee, and welcome to the show.
Hi, Karen, and thanks for having me.
It's an absolute pleasure, Lee. I wish it could be under better conditions, because the things that are happening in South Africa are happening so fast and so badly that none of us can keep up. And I know that all three of you are exhausted, having spent many, many waiting hours, night and day, sorting out this problem. But it would be best if we began with the history. So, Lee, could you just explain how Munsieville came to be and how the people there are living today?
Well, Munsieville used to be actually Coronation Park, which it used to be a caravan park. And the government or the municipality decided that they wanted to use the land for development. And after a 9-year court battle, the Munsieville folks, or the folks from Coronation Park, lost their court battle.
All right, we've lost the. Engli, do you know the history of Munsieville? You could jump in there.
Yeah, I've got an idea. What happened is they were moved then after they lost the situation with the court. The municipality decided to put them in Munsieville. That is originally, for years now, I don't know how many years, it's a black place. Black people is staying there only.
Yes.
Yes. So they decided to take these people and put them there. There was nothing. There was absolutely nothing. No grass, no nothing. Just red
dirt.
Soil.
And it was literally it was literally a landfill.
Yes, literally.
So with all of the stuff that is involved with a landfill, I mean, all the garbage that had been dumped there over the years. So these people were then told by the government that they were going there, but they were also told that it was not a permanent settlement.
I'm not sure about that. I just read the reports that they were moved there, and they called them the Roeimere, helped them to get to know the other people that's staying in Munsieville already.
Yeah. So essentially they were moved there no matter what they wanted to do. That was now the government designated spot for these people.
Yeah. There was no other way to go.
Leo, you're back?
Yes, I am. It keeps on dropping. Sorry.
It's all right. I just got Emily to fill in there. So what we've just said,
Right.
Lee, is that these people were sent to Munsieville from Coronation Park. But the point here is that they were not allowed to put up permanent buildings because it's not a permanent place to stay.
No. They were basically put on this landfill, and the municipality erected these corrugated iron shacks with no windows, no flooring. There weren't any faucet taps, as we call it in South Africa. They had no ablution, so they used the bucket system right in the beginning. They had to go to court to ask for porta potties, and it's been an uphill battle for these poor folks from the get-go. And this has been going on for many, many, many years.
Yes, and so they were put on this place, and eventually they got a porta potty per 2 families or whatever it is, and they got 2 faucets with running water. But those are still the kind of buckets that have to be emptied, and they're not regularly emptied, are they?
No, I think it's emptied every 3 to 4 days. And in this excruciating heat that we have in South Africa, you can imagine the stench going in there after the second day. I feel it's a health hazard, and it's really, really not safe at all.
No, not at all. Because never mind. We'll go on to the speak about the RDP housing, what that is, and what they have in comparison to what Munsieville has.
The RDP houses have been allocated by the government. These are actually brick structures, homes. They have running water, they have electricity, they have hot water geysers, solar panels. They have every amenity that a human being would need. And on the left-hand side of the road, you find Munsieville with these flimsy, put-together, corrugated iron shacks. There's no electricity. There's hardly any water. There's no ablution block. Children have to bath in buckets and in plastic baths. There's no, showers and things like that for the people to clean themselves, let alone wash your dishes, cook food, things like that.
So, Lee, how do they cook meals? They don't have electricity, so they don't have a stove.
A lot of them have built themselves a donkey, which is an old drum that they fill up with water, and they make fire underneath the drum, and the water is heated up and goes up into a pipe, and then that's how they try. Some of them try and get the hot water. So it's a very primitive way of getting hot water.
Lee, you would laugh. Some years back, I think it's about possibly 40 years ago, we bought a farm. My parents bought the farm, and we also had the donkey system for water, and we had one of those coal stoves. So I can kind of relate, but at least we had indoor plumbing, and we did have a bathroom and those kind of things, you know.
No. Yeah,
but,
these people do not have any of that.
No, I know.
It's quite difficult.
But the donkey is an absolute South African thing that other people will not understand, and has been used by people not so far distant past, as a way of heating the house up. But it's not really funny, because they don't have taps inside. So you may have hot water, but you still have to use it outside unless you bring it in by bucket or by some other means, It
That's
isn't.
correct, yes.
It isn't. It really isn't funny, but it's just, to me, it's funny because I remember stoking that donkey so he could have a hot bath.
No, not only that, it's where do you get the firewood from, to actually stoke the firewood.
No, absolutely.
They use whatever they can find to stoke the fire with, broken pallets, broken furniture, whatever they can lay their hands on. Because it's not like they do go into the bush, but they're not really allowed to clear the bush from wood.
Yes.
They can be fighted with a fine.
Lee, the sad thing about that is that for me it was an adventure to have a donkey. But for these people it is a sad reality of everyday life. And something that most of us who come from a middle class home are not equipped to deal with. You don't have those kind of survival skills when you've lived in a middle class home all your life, and now you're suddenly dumped in these awful circumstances. You don't have the skills to survive.
That's true, and you're lucky if you find the resources like a drum and pipes and to make yourself one. You barely can afford a loaf of bread for your family and maybe a tin of fish. So it's I take my hat off to these folks. I really, truly do.
They show the old Boer survival, don't they? I mean, the Boers,
yes.
The Afrikaner in general, is so well known for surviving the most incredible bad situations and coming out on top of it. So yes,
well, that's where that saying comes from, a boer maak 'n plan. A farmer makes a plan. It's because that's in our blood, it's in our heritage. Our people know that in the most difficult circumstances, we can survive, and we are very innovative with making a plan with regards to anything, whether it be farming, building, planting, you name it.
I agree. The South African people have proven time and time again that they can make a success out of absolutely nothing. So
that's true.
These people were now forced into these circumstances where they don't have toilets, they don't have baths, they don't have showers, they are unable to wash. How do they cook, Lee?
Well, by fire. They some of them have little gas bottles, and so they cook on gas or on fire. That's what they do. That's if they can afford gas. The lucky ones, the ones that do have a little bit of a piece job, they can at least afford to fill up the little gas bottle. But other than that, most of the time they make fires to cook their food with.
No. This may seem fine, but imagine in the freezing cold of winter, to get up in the morning and to give your children something warm to drink or eat, if you happen to have any of that in your little shack. You have to go outside, gather wood in the most primitive conditions, and also, with the threat of being fined for doing it, gather the wood, make the fire outside, because you'll asphyxiate your family if you make it in the shack, and somehow put together something for your family to survive on for the day. Those are the most primitive living conditions that I can imagine in a first world country.
That's true, and winter is upon us. We've got basically a month left, and these folks are going to struggle through another winter in these same horrid conditions, and nobody cares. The government doesn't care.
Yes, Lee. And people who don't have to see it, the white South Africans who do not have this in front of their eyes every day, they don't seem to care very much either, but that's a story for another day. So Lee, now, these people, the first night they moved in with very little, and their floor was just this mush of garbage heap that they were supposed to sleep on. The elderly and the children and the frail and the ill, they didn't even have floors to sleep on. And that first night, as I understand it, it might have been the second or third night, but as I understand it, there was an incredible storm, and those roofs just leaked like so. So the people were sleeping on mud puddles, literally, and some of those houses were blown away because they have no foundations.
Yes, that's correct. There were no foundations. The way Munsieville camp is built and where the shacks are, the water comes from the top and it runs right through the camp into the valley. So what happened was it was a huge storm. The wind blew away 2 or 3 of these shacks, basically buckled completely. It looked like foil paper, the ordinary
tin foil. Yes.
And the water was gushing all over, and these poor people were horrified. And we were horrified that they were left in these conditions. So once again, everybody jumped out to try and see what could be done to rescue the building material and rebuild these shacks so that the families could have a place to stay for the next night.
Right. So now, Lee, is that when South African Family Relief Project stepped in the first time?
Yes, that's when we stepped in. They were just there, arrived at Munsieville, and that's when we started assisting them. So it's basically right from the beginning that we assisted them when they moved to Munsieville.
Okay. So then, can you just tell us? And I know you don't like to blow your charity's trumpet at all. I know that you're a very humble person and you don't like to tell the world the good you've done, but I think this is a very important place to start. So what has Family Relief done for these people?
Well, we started with the floors. Although we didn't have permission to put floors in, we donated a few tons of cement, and we started cementing the floors in the shacks so that when the rain comes down, it doesn't,
you're not sleeping.
Flood the shack.
You're not sleeping in mud.
Yes, yeah. And some, we put carpeting, some of the companies donated carpets, and we put carpets. I mean, you can imagine in the winter time, even just with a cement floor, how bitterly cold it is. And Munsieville can get very, very cold because they get wind from all sides. So we did that. We did cement floors for the LAPA, and we're building the school together with Munsieville for Steve. We've taken up the initiative, and we're paying for the school to be done and completed, the 2 classrooms, within the next 3 weeks, hopefully. So we're very, very happy to be able to say that the children will be safe. We also planted 4 tons of grass because there's no grass there, it's just soil around the school area. Some of it was washed away now with the huge storm that they had recently, but at least there is some grass growing around there. We've donated food and toys and school books for the creche. So we're really trying our best, the same as a lot of other organizations like Bus Foundation and Munsieville for Steve, really, really going out of their way to help these people.
All right. So Lee, yes, our concentration this evening is on Munsieville. But Lee, that is not the only place in South Africa where these people are suffering.
No, we have about 460 similar camps, although they're not squatter camps, that we call them informal settlements. The land is owned by private landowners, and so they are good-hearted, some of them, that do take in the destitute. Some of these farmers then allow the people to build their own little structures and keep the people there in numbers. Like you said, numbers It's better to be in a camp where you are surrounded by your own people in numbers than be out on the street with just you and your wife and children. It's very, very dangerous in South Africa. You can't even walk to the shop at 5 o'clock in the afternoon. You're crazy if you do that because of the crime statistics, and you'll get murdered. And yes, we have all these informal settlements, some good, some bad, where these people are landing up in, but they are bursting at the seams. There aren't any more places to put these folks. And the unemployment rate amongst white South Africans is growing at an alarming rate. And I don't know where we're going to go with all these people. I honestly cannot tell you.
And yet, Lee, I have seen comments frequently on posts that we've put up that the unemployment rate amongst whites is only 5%. And the government themselves say that the poverty rate amongst whites is too small to even give 1% to it. So how...
Well, that's a lie, because we're about 4 million, going on 5 million, but we've got close to 1 million white South Africans living in poverty, abject poverty. And about 350,000 of those are children. So I don't know where they get their statistics from. As far as I'm concerned, we work in these camps. We see how many people we experience the poverty and the hopelessness every day.
Well, it's easy for them because there is only one government-designated squatter camp. So if you take Munsieville as the only white squatter camp, which the government can quite safely do, well then, you know, their figures are...
1%.
Yeah, they're not even 1%. Their figures are
not
then
even,
correct.
Yes.
But it's so easy for them to do that because then it's plausible deniability and they can simply say, well, there aren't any. But from personal boots-on-the-ground experience, I have seen how your organization and others have found people living one little family in a car or living under a piece of tarpaulin in the bush or
the railway track behind the railway line.
Yes, just one family at a time living in incredibly bad situation, but in even worse danger of being murdered, and not just murdered, tortured to death, just for fun. It is so scary. So now with the latest layoffs, and we have seen from the numbers that the mines are laying off and Eskom is laying off, it's going to be another 5,000 or 6,000 workers laid off, which then means even giving them only 4 people per family, that is still another 24,000 people out of work and out of homes. How are you going to cope?
Well, that's difficult to say. I think it's a question for everybody because we're not coping, and we're a fairly big organization. We're not coping ourselves with the demand of people asking us for homes and a place to stay or just a room for an entire family of 6. We've got nowhere to go with these people. So I don't know how we're going to cope if the South Africa is flooded with a 20-odd thousand jobless folks.
Yes, because
I can't answer you because there is no more resources available to these people. All we can do is clothe and feed, and we're trying to get our farm projects up and running so that we can house some of the people, but that's not going to be nearly enough with everybody that is unemployed.
It seems like such a hopeless situation. But at the same time, if your 3 organizations and others like yours, and there are not nearly enough of them, if these organizations did not exist, these people would simply die of starvation, of malnutrition, and of diseases that are coming into your country or be murdered, either or, any of those things.
Yes.
So it seems like a very hopeless situation, and yet your organization, Miljoen Stemme for Steve, and now VAS organization, which I'm ashamed to say I don't know very much about, if they did not exist, and they did not go out there asking for donations, and they did not take their own time, their own vehicles, and their own finances, and go and help these people, what would happen to them, Lee?
Oh, I shudder to think. I think they would just wither and die, because they are already so hopeless, not being able to find employment, and I don't think that. I think we would have deaths in the camps significantly because of malnutrition, and I can see it coming. Thank goodness for all these amazing organizations that have stopped it from happening. But I fear with the figure growing so tremendously, we will eventually get to that stage where it is so severe that we won't be able to cope. We really can't at the moment already. So
because
it's very difficult.
Apart from the camps, you have people like, I think his name's Barent, that was shot and required a wheelchair and help for his family because now they had no wage earner, and he's got a family and they needed help, and he's now paralyzed.
Oh, you're talking about Brahman Yudulda.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah,
sorry.
He was shot. Yes.
So apart from the camps, you are still dealing, all of you combined, are still dealing with other tragic circumstances where help is desperately required.
That's correct.
So now a farmer gives a piece of land, or a person gives a piece of land, but the listeners must not think that this person who's given the piece of land is now going to build houses and provide sewerage and provide running water and provide electricity and provide. No, he gives a piece of barren land and he says, okay, you either pay X amount of rent per month, because some of them charge rent, or you may use this land. But that's all it is, a piece of bush where these people now have to start from the beginning again.
Yes, it's similar to Munsieville. It's just on the landfall, but there's no plumbing indoor. They've got to basically build their homes with whatever materials they can find. It's just by the good-heartedness of the farmer that takes these people in that they are safe. Other than that, they've got to fend for themselves, and in many cases, they have to still pay rent for that little tiny piece of land that they are on.
Yes, and now, Lee, you talk about being safe. Now, in South Africa, a general human being who has a job and who has some money lives behind 8-foot walls with electric wiring on the top and alarm systems and burglar bars and dogs and they are still not safe. But now these people in the squatter camps, they don't have walls around them. They are not armed and dangerous people. They don't have firearms. And even if they did, how are they going to buy ammunition for it when they don't have food for that night? So they are disarmed. They don't have any safety features around their camps. They are not safe. They are safe because they're in numbers instead of out there on their own. But that is the only safety that they really have. Lee?
Yes, that's true. That's the only safety they have, is the fact that they are huddled together on a farm. But other than that, they've got no job security, food security. The schools are often far away. They can't get their children into school. They don't have jobs because it's farmland. There aren't big factories and shops around, so they've got to travel for long distances in order to get their children to school and to find employment.
Which they certainly are not going to find. And
no, definitely not in the situation that they are in. Definitely not.
Okay, so then, Engly, I would like to bring you in here and just say, explain what Million Stemmer for Steve is and how they got involved in this, because essentially people see it as a political organization trying to vote Steve into government, and that seems to be the common perception of it. But that's not all that you are.
No, that's definitely not all that we are. We will be busy in March the 19th. We will be busy for a year now. We started this organization in the prospect of Steve doing something for us.
Okay, you need to explain who
activist, whatever.
You need to explain who is Steve, because we know Steve, but the world knows him as a singer, but they don't know Steve like we know Steve.
Yeah, they don't know him as an activist. And the problem is, within South Africa, people don't even recognize him as an activist speaking out for minority groups.
Yes.
They just think it's doing it for his own health. I don't know.
Fame and fortune. Fame and fortune. His fame and fortune. The thing people do not realize.
They think that, and it's definitely not, because he's being boycotted all over.
Yes.
And he hasn't changed his story just to have the faith in him again. He sticks to his story. And he's standing up and saying, listen, everybody that wants a better South Africa, move on. Come, let's take hands. Doesn't matter if your color is black, pink, yellow, whatever. If you believe that we can make a new South Africa that's there for all the people, let's stick together. But people don't want to do that.
No, they don't.
Everybody wants to be the chief.
So let me just explain. Steve Hofmeyer is the Steve that we are talking about. He's an internationally acclaimed singer. He sings both in English and in Afrikaans. Very well known, very popular, extremely popular singer in South Africa. But he started standing up against the murder, the fraud, the corruption of this communist government that we have in South Africa. And because of that, he lost a lot of sponsorships. He was refused the ability to sing at big festivals in South Africa, where he used to be the main attraction. He was then banned by the sponsors from singing at these places. So he himself took an incredible financial knock because he dared to speak up for dispossessed and badly treated South Africans, all of them alike, not just white, although it would appear that we stand up only for whites. The reason we do that is because there are so few whites. We are less than 8% of the population, and we need somebody to stand up for us. So Steve did that.
Yeah.
And then Engly...
And he was also protecting our heritage. I mean, he was one of the very few people that stood up against us losing our rights and losing our heritage. I mean, that is something that we own. You can't take it away from us. And Steve was one of the very few people that said, bugger this, I'm standing up and I'm saying no, enough.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And you know, that is one of the things that the United Nations Charter on Genocide says, that genocide is not necessarily bodies piling up in the streets. It is losing your culture, your language, your heritage, your history. All of those things are a genocide. So even if the world looks at South Africa and says, well, there are not thousands of bodies in the streets, they need to look deeper into the true meaning of a genocide, because it has been going on and is going on today, especially with these university riots. But we're not going to go there tonight. We'll do that another night. But they are trying to dispossess the Afrikaner of his entire history, All the things that he created and did, they're trying to take away from you, including your language. So a genocide is definitely happening. And Steve Hofmeyr stood up and said, as you said, Lee, here's the line and no further. Enough now. Somebody has to stand up and say something. And I, Steve Hofmeyr, have a voice and I'm going to use it. And for that, he has been severely penalized. And then, Engli, a group of people stood up and said to Steve, would you run for Parliament? And then?
Then he said, if I can get 1 million votes. And it was somewhat out of a joke.
Yeah, it was.
But we took it seriously and we are running with it.
Yeah, you called him on that and he thought, oh, well, this will never happen. And so I'm quite safe to say
he
this.
He thought, okay, maybe 20,000. And within the first 3 days, I think it was over 40,000 already.
Exactly.
So, yeah.
But he had no intention of being a politician.
I don't think so. It will be silly to be a politician in this country in any case.
Exactly. No, I quite agree with you. But I mean, it wasn't that Steve stood up and said, vote for me because I'm Steve Hofmeyr and I need more fame. You know, it wasn't that at all. It was kind of in a joking aside. You'll never get
it. It came from the people. It came from the people themselves. That's what the people wanted. And many people voiced that opinion out of their own accord. It wasn't Steve that said, I want to be this and glorified himself. The people wanted him there in that position.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, so then 1 million votes for Steve, which is the English translation of their name, was started. And from there, what happened?
A lot of things. But on the helping side, the volunteering side, we started about in August. We started with the Purple Bag project, meaning that we take about 300 rands worth of food supplies and give it out to people, and hopefully they will be able to live on that 300 rand for about 14 days for a family of 4.
Yeah.
Stating that they will be eating only 1 meal a day, and it's maybe rice today, maybe porridge tomorrow, something like that. But we started that, and only recently we decided to actually move into squatter camps and stuff like that to see if we can help on the bigger picture. And
you also started a radio station.
Yes, that we did on the 1st of December. In 2015, we started that.
Because in South Africa, the media either will not or is not allowed to report on anything. They do not report on black and white crimes. They do not report on the murders. And if they do, it has a very different...
there's a twist.
Different slant on the truth. Let's put it nicely like that.
Yeah.
So you started your own radio station in order to give hope to the people, not just report on bad things, but to give hope and to institute a time of prayer for people, because that is part of the Afrikaner heritage, is the belief that God is on your side and you need to turn back to Him in order to get your lives back.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. So then, Quinton, the Bus Foundation, how and why did that begin?
Okay, well, WAS Foundation was actually a foundation that was started by my wife Esmeralda, and it was actually started to assist animals. So it was actually a foundation that she started to rehome and look after animals that were in desperate need of attention, whether it be medical or any other sort of assistance like food or so forth.
Mm-hmm.
Then in 2009, she actually got involved with Coronation Park, and she assisted to sterilize and deworm and so forth the animals that the people had there. But she noticed that obviously it wasn't only the animals that required assistance, it was actually the people as well. And shortly after she got involved with that, she was awarded with the Nedbank Woman of the Year award, and they sponsored her with 15,000 rand, I believe it was, in prize money. And she basically took that money and she started to put food hampers together for the people in Coronation Park. And that's sort of how the relationship with Coronation Park, and then obviously with the move over to Munsieville, she also assisted with a couple of items there and so forth. So that's basically how sort of WAS Foundation started, and it's been growing steadily ever since, with more and more volunteers coming on board and people willing to assist. So that's about it.
But now, okay, I'm just jumping in here because I didn't know, as I shamefully admitted, about the WAS Foundation, but this is one of the things that is said about the people in the camp. If they can't feed themselves, why do they have animals, and why do they keep on having children? Now, my question to you is, if I today was thrown out of my home and had to go and live somewhere else, would I leave my faithful dog behind, or would I take him with me? So what do these naysayers really expect people to do with their faithful pets who are part of the family? Are they expected to just dump them?
Yeah, exactly. And I think you wouldn't necessarily abandon your pet just because you are now destitute and so forth. Obviously that's where the WAS Foundation comes in as well, and assists with the feeding of the animals and so forth as well. But I think from that perspective, it's as you rightfully mentioned, it is part of the family, and for some people that don't necessarily have a family, those are companions, and not necessarily just pets. So that's partly why, and I mean, I must be honest with you, I mean, they take care of their animals extremely well. I've seen animals in better condition in Munsieville than I have in certain suburbs in South Africa. So they really, really, really look after the animals. They do love them, and it's a pleasure for them to actually have those animals.
I'm very, very pleased that somebody stood up for that, because I cannot imagine my child, who's my dog, I just can't imagine that child being left behind because, well, now I'm in bad circumstances, I don't love you anymore. It doesn't work like that. It's like abandoning your children. You can't do it. So you take them along in hopes of this situation being temporary or having a better life later. But I mean, you're not going to desert your children or your grandparents or whatever in a situation like that. You're in it together. You're in it for the long run. And I admire those people who don't know where their next meal is coming from, but they're not going to abandon their animal. It is a praiseworthy thing, not something to be criticized about. So Quentin, we're about to come up to the first ad break. So I don't want to start on the Friday night's events until we've got that behind us. Is there anybody who wants to say anything else about Munsieville prior to Friday night, or to about the safety of people in South Africa before we go into the events of Friday night?
Well, I think the general feeling is that we are not safe. If you look at the so-called crime statistics in South Africa, we have so many home invasions and farm murders. We are so desensitized already because it is happening on a daily basis. 2 and 3 farm attacks, sometimes murders. It's crazy. I cannot understand why our government is denying the violence. To me, it's completely unacceptable.
And the scary part of that, for me, is that you cannot trust the police. So even if you have something go wrong, you hesitate to call them because they are a large part of the problem. And even if you do call them, they find some reason not to come. They don't have petrol in their vehicles, gasoline in their vehicles. Sorry, they don't have enough people on duty. If they answer the phone in the first place, they don't have enough people on duty. Or, as they said to my mother when my father and my brother were shot, they said, well, can you identify your attackers by name? And my mom said, no, of course not. And they said, well, sorry, we can't help you. And that was the last we ever heard from the police. So they are a large part of the problem. So where does safety come in at all for South Africans? And not just white South Africans in general.
Well, if you take just the farm of the firearms that are being stolen out of police premises alone, 300 firearms a month. Now, that in itself tells you that corruption is rampant in police stations. Then you get a police vehicle with police officers in proper police uniforms, but the vehicle is not registered to the police, and neither are the men that are wearing the uniform. So you don't even know whether the vehicle and the policemen are truly policemen.
Yeah, and these same firearms that you're talking about are the ones that were confiscated from legal firearm owners on the promise of getting new licenses under the new government, and then you would get your firearm back. But we all know what happened.
But you don't. That's
no,
the thing, yeah.
We all know what happened there. Licenses are impossible to get. So these firearms are all sitting in police stations. And as I understand it, you can even rent one for a day from the police.
Yes, that's correct. Yes.
So you tell me that these police do not know that these are for nefarious purposes. They think you're coming in to rent a firearm for some legal purpose. Please tell me another story. You know, I just find the whole of South Africa to be such a if it wasn't so tragic, it would be a comic book. It really would. It would just be, it's too much for the world to wrap their heads around. And you tell somebody outside of South Africa, and they just look at you blankly, because life can't be like that. It's not possible for life to be that way. You know?
Yeah, that's true. They don't grasp the fact that it's so corrupt.
No, and so it's really hard, because we are fighting a wall of silence, but at the same time we are fighting incomprehension, because what is going on in South Africa, and has been going on for the last few weeks, with all these riots and the universities and the racism comments and the new laws, it's just impossible for somebody outside who's never lived there to understand that this is possible in a supposed first world country.
Yeah, and we are so used to it. It's normal to us. And if you look at it and the way you are mentioning it, all of it, when you think back, it's very, very tragic. We are losing everything that we have.
But if you know, all three of you, and myself, I've not been out of South Africa for that long. It crept up on us. First, you had a fence around your property. Then you had to put up a wall, and then you had to put broken glass, or spikes or whatever on top of your wall. Then you had to put in an electric gate. Then you had to put in burglar bars. Then you had to put in security. Then you had to put in an alarm system. Then you had to connect that alarm system to rapid response people. And it all happened
Then you had to put in cameras, because you can't identify the people.
Yes. And it happened so slowly, and in incremental steps, that I count myself amongst it. We South Africans consider it normal. And it is only when you step outside of that country and see what normal really is that you realize what prisoners you have made of yourselves. And you are still not safe.
It's true. You know, when we went to Mozambique, I went to the market, and I left the keys in the car. I could leave my handbag on the seat. We went to the market. We came back. The car was unlocked. And they do not dare take anything from you. And that's in a third world country. In our own country, you can't do that. You're crazy if you do that.
You know
no,
what?
I agree. It's not, and you know, even that, as you said, you do get so used to it, and you pass that knowledge on to your kids. I mean, you are teaching your children, listen, when somebody comes into the house that you don't know, and mommy and daddy screams out a particular sentence or a name or whatever the case may be, you need to go hide in the cupboard, close your ears. You know, that's kind of what you're teaching your children, and that's, you know, your, I suppose, feeble way of trying to secure their safety. But that's what you have to teach your children. Don't trust strangers. Don't take anything from them. You know, children can't walk out. They can't walk out.
Home.
Yeah, they'll get abducted, or they'll get robbed, or whatever the case may be. So yeah, it's just terrible, and I think they are going to be even worse than what we are, because you know, we often say we hear about friends and family that have been involved in or that have been affected by crime, and you know, you hear somebody got hijacked, and you say, oh well, thankfully he didn't get shot, you know. But
yes, wasn't he lucky? Or if your home is burgled, gee, lucky they didn't kill you, or lucky you're still alive. That is not lucky.
No, not at all.
But we consider it that way because, as Lee said, we are so desensitized to these things going on around us all day that you scarcely even notice them, and all you think is, well, it wasn't my family. And that is shocking, because South Africa was known for its warm hospitality, its kindness, its acceptance of strangers. There are hundreds of stories around the world of people traveling through the Karoo, for instance, and their car breaks down. Some farmer helps him and takes him into his house for the night, and so on. You can't do that today. You hardly even know your neighbors today.
No, I mean, we've even got security companies now that the moment that your car breaks down, as part of the insurance you take out on your vehicle, they'll send an armed escort to wait by the side of the road with you, so that nothing happens to you while you actually wait for a tow truck to come out. So, I mean, that's the level of situation that's actually developed.
So we are raising children in fear. From the day they're born, we are instilling fear into them, but we have to for their own self-protection. What kind of way is that for people to live?
It's survival. That's the only thing it is. It's pure survival.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with Quentin. It's survival. We are only in survival mode, and that's all you can think of when you drive to work in the morning and when you drive back home tonight. You know, you've got to look around and watch if there's somebody near my gate, and you make sure that your family is safe and before you enter the home. It's ridiculous.
It is no way to live. And what I'm trying to do here is draw a comparison between the camps and between normal daily life for those fortunate enough to have a job. The only difference is that those who have a job have a home to go to, have a roof over their head, and know where their next meal is coming from. But at the same time, they are perfectly aware that they are one paycheck away from being those people in the camps. Nobody has enough money to keep them going through months or years of unemployment. So that also creeps up on you. You lose your job, so you can't pay your mortgage, and you can't pay for your vehicle, and you can't pay for the good school for your children. And it creeps up on you until you are suddenly out on the street. And every single one of us, as close to that as losing our jobs. And I think people should be more aware that when they put out these posts, and I read a terrible article the other day about do not give money to these white people standing with a piece of cardboard saying no job, family to feed, please help. don't give money to them because they are all alcoholics or drug addicts. Now, if
oh my Lord.
Yes, it was an article in one of the newspapers in South Africa the other day.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if almost 1/3 of the white population is in those circumstances, are you telling me that 1/3 of the population are drug addicts and alcoholics? It's impossible.
No.
It is impossible. But that is what this article said. I was horrified, absolutely horrified.
Well, I mean, speaking for all of us, we've been in these camps and we see that you don't get the drug abuse and the severe alcoholism that article speaks about. I don't agree with it.
Yes,
not at all. You do get isolated incidences, yes. I will not deny that. But the majority of the people are in such dire straits just to get food, let alone, and there are so many children, families with children. And I can tell you, I've seen and I've spoken about it. I see the desperation in the parents' eyes, and I know that most of these parents do not abuse what that article says. I don't agree with it.
No, but for me, you people work with us every day. The heartache and the pain and the misery that you must see every single day would make most people quit. And yet all of you keep on going and still somehow manage your own lives. And the inhumanity of an article like that just breaks my heart. Because if you look at the numbers, it is impossible that all of those people are like that. There must be some. Of course there are.
Nonsense.
It is nonsense. But people go out and write this nonsense without realizing that next month I could be that person standing on the corner.
Well, it's an easy ploy to discredit our nation, our people. That's what it's about. It's to deflect the actual situation by accusing the people of that.
Yes, absolutely. Okay, we're coming up to an ad break.
Today is an important day. It's your day to be ready, take care of your family, and buy your emergency food supply from the Freeze Dry Guy. Because today, the Freeze Dry Guy introduces our Mountain House and Packaway 1-month food supply. Today, get the Freeze Dry Guy's 30-day premium unit, normally $364, sale price at $263. Save $101. Buy 2 cases, normally $727, sale price at $506. Save $222. Or choose 3 30-day premium units, normally $1,091, now only $748. Save $343 from the Freeze Dry Guy. These premium units are packed with the highest quality Mountain House entrees, meats, vegetables, and Packaway brand freeze-dried pineapple and dehydrates, such as milk, ABC stew, and rolled oats, 289 half-cup servings. Go to freezedryguy.com or call 866-404-3663. That's freezedryguy.com or call 866-404-3663. Free shipping to the lower 48. Hurry, our Mountain House and Packaway 1-month supply sale ends soon. So call now, 866-404-3663.
Visit Infowars.com and PrisonPlanet.com. When you're on the site, you can also tune in 24 hours a day to my daily radio broadcast. There's also a free iPhone app to listen to the syndicated radio show when and where you want.
The Occidental Quarterly fills a unique niche in bringing together scholarly articles on a wide range of topics that are mired in political correctness elsewhere. It is edited by Professor Kevin McDonald, who's no stranger to listeners of the political cesspool. There are quite a few reasons for the precarious state of our civilization and our people, but one of the main ones is that we have lost the intellectual and moral high ground to a cultural elite that is hostile to our people and our culture. Those of us who are politically aware must understand that the elites dominating culture and the political process in the West are intellectually and morally bankrupt. TOQ is the key. Digital download subscriptions are only $30 a year. Subscriptions by first-class mail are only $60 a year. Go to TOQonline.com and click on Subscribe Now. In addition to receiving fascinating and informative articles, you will also be supporting the work of scholars who are part of a community defending our people and our culture with the highest level of integrity and intellectual sophistication. That's TOQonline.com. Subscribe now.
Are you worried about America? Do you fear the power of the Obama brigades to take away your rights? The Obama presidency is the most radical left-wing administration in American history. Our constitutional liberties are in danger. What can you do? Join the Council of Conservative Citizens. For over 20 years, the CFCC has fought for the rights and ideals of the European American majority. The CFCC has won legal and political battles to protect your heritage and your liberties. The CFCC advocates strong state governments over the power of Washington, D.C. to rule your life. The CFCC believes in an American first foreign and domestic policy which opposes globalism and one world government. The CFCC advocates racial integrity as God's natural order. Visit our website today at www.cfcc.org and join fellow European Americans in the fight for our people.
Restore the Republic, the social network for the modern revolutionary, activating the silent masses into action. At restoretherepublic.net, we're seizing power from the globalist world controllers and handing it back to the people. Restoretherepublic.net, where patriots rally on the objective. The Liberty Bell tolls once again for a movement on the rise. Make restoretherepublic.net your place to unify and activate the revolution.
Thanks for listening to Project Schoolyard Volume 2. For more information about the project, as well as lyrics to the songs on this CD, please visit www.tightrope.cc. You can also find jokes, news articles, a photo gallery, free CD downloads, and a secure online shopping cart. We carry a full line of flags, t-shirts, CDs, books, stickers, and other products of interest to racially conscious white people. Please visit www.tightrope.cc.
You're listening to Resolution Radio.
You're listening to Radio Free South Africa. This is your host, Karen Smith. Our guests tonight are Lee, Engli, and Quinton from three wonderful organizations in South Africa that jumped in and helped at a moment's notice when disaster hit the Munsieville camp. I'd like to bring on Quinton first from the Bus Foundation because they received the first call and they understood what led up to this disaster. Quinton, because our listeners are not aware of what is going on in South Africa, could you explain first what led up to the actual Friday night thing? Because it wasn't a spontaneous outburst. It was the culmination of a lot of protesting.
Yes, that's correct, Karen. So basically, the people in Munsieville, the black residents within Munsieville, had illegally connected electricity supplied to their homes, and obviously the sort of municipalities, the local municipalities were sent out. They sent letters out to the people to state that they needed to disconnect those illegal connections, and they need to apply for the and follow the due process in order to get legal electricity. So that went on for a couple of weeks, I believe, before this Friday event. Obviously, the people did not heed the warning from the municipalities, and they sent out a group of people that they call the Red Ants, which is basically a group that they send in to disconnect all of these illegal connections, and there's a whole bunch of other stuff that they do as well. But when the protest, or when the actual residents saw that these Red Ants were gathering, they knew that their illegally connected electricity was going to be removed, and that's actually when the I would say the sort of violent protesters or protests then actually flared up and started.
Yeah. So this was not a protest about the fact that they do not have electricity. This was not a protest about the fact that they do not have municipal services. This was a protest because they do not want to pay for electricity because the ANC promised them free housing, free electricity, free everything, and they were not getting it.
That is correct.
All right. So now we come to Friday afternoon. And how did you first learn about this problem?
So there are two sort of people that live in Munsieville that we are in close contact with, Hiku and Irene. They contacted my wife on her cell phone on Friday afternoon at about 4 p.m. And they stated that there was some violent protests happening within the township itself, and that they would kind of, sort of keep her up to date with what was happening. So I think it was about 30 minutes later she received another phone call, and during the phone call she could hear obviously a lot of background noises, so a lot of kids screaming and the sound of gunshots. She then asked Irene what was going on, and she said no, that the black residents are now in their area where the white settlement is, and that the police are now shooting at everybody and deploying tear gas canisters and so forth to disperse the angry crowds. So Hiku and Eileen were coordinating the kids to huddle together in their shack, so that they would obviously be protected and they would kind of be accounted for, if I can put it that way. So basically that started the whole sort of chain of events where we coordinated with our volunteers, Lizelle and Darby Milan, who then assisted us to get a hold of a bunch of buses. Actually, essentially that was the first plan. It was to get a bunch of buses in so that they could actually go and pick up the kids and bring them out. Unfortunately, the bus services refused because they were scared that the buses would get burnt down by the protesters, which is generally what happens in these types of protests. Anybody that attempts to enter or leave the township is either assaulted or their vehicles are burnt, and that includes police vehicles as well.
Yeah, and so, ambulances.
Ambulances, any sort of medical assistance, that is required. Those people are often attacked and, in a lot of times, injured quite badly as well. So basically, the guys then sent out a message to all of our supporters and requested them if we could get private vehicles to actually go and collect the kids. But obviously, they couldn't collect them at the entrance of Munsieville, and they had to collect them down the road at the bottom of the hill. There is a sort of a bridge leading, to an open piece of felt. And Hiku and Irene, once the volunteers were there, we contacted Hiku and Irene and we told them that they could now take the kids through. They then took the kids through the veld in the middle of the night to kind of avoid the violent protesters, and managed to get the kids out. They had a total of 34 kids that were taken out. These kids ranged in age from 1 year old up until about 16 or 17 years old. Obviously boys and girls, and 25 of those kids came through to our house in Randburg, and 9 other kids were then sent to our volunteer in Centurion to kind of just keep them safe and get them out of the way of any sort of harm that would happen to them.
Now, for me, I have got little grandchildren. The thought of them going through that traumatic experience, first, if you don't live in South Africa and you have never gone through one of these protests, you don't understand the noise, the violence, the whistles blowing, the people screaming. the performance, the fear, and then on top of that, the shooting and the smoke bombs, and for any child, the trauma of that must have been horrific.
Yes, definitely, and that's what we could hear over the phone as they were talking to us. Is every time a shot rang out, or somebody screamed, or whatever the case may be, you could actually hear the kids, screaming in fear as well. So that's kind of what made us jump into action as soon as possible.
But Quentin, these poor children, I mean, from a mother and a grandmother's point of view, these children's lives are already horrific beyond description. They live in dreadful circumstances. They don't know if they're going to eat their next meal. They are taunted if they go to school, if they can go to school. They are taunted for being poor and not having shoes and not fitting in. They're not clean. The horror that they live with daily, and then this trauma on top of it. And there is nobody who is going to counsel them and give them help. So at this stage, you didn't know how long this was going to last. You didn't know whether the whole of Munsieville would be burnt down, which is often the case in these protests. You didn't know whether they'd ever be able to go home again, and you didn't know whether there would be severe injuries or not, because you didn't know whether this group was going to explode into the white camp and create chaos. So your volunteers took their own vehicles and went to the nearest road to pick up these children, and you and your wife and some other people opened your homes to them. Is that correct? It was just normal, everyday people.
That's correct, yes. So, yeah, I mean, about kids and so forth as well, I think it was quite traumatic for them, in those circumstances and so forth. And, but I think kids are very resilient, and I saw that evening that they arrived here, we managed to order 15 pizzas for the kids, and just to make sure that they at least had something to eat during the course of the night, because obviously I think they had they obviously had other stuff on their minds in terms of looking after their possessions and making sure that their families were safe. So food, I think, was the last thing on their minds. So we made sure that the kids had a supper and some cold drink and so forth, and it was amazing to see that they just decided to run outside. They played with our dogs. They interacted with my son as well, which is who's 4 years old at this stage, and they had an absolute blast. Some of them played board games, some of them watched movies, and they were just normal kids. And it's very sad that they. No, I don't think any child should be exposed to that kind of situation or violence in their lives ever, basically.
No, absolutely not. And for me, the fact that so many people came together so fast to make it possible to rescue these children, to feed them, to give them a place to sleep. I can't imagine what your house must have been like, Quentin, with all of these children sleeping in every single little bit of space you had. Where did beds and bedding come from?
Well, that's obviously when we sent out messages on our Facebook, page and so forth, and we've got a couple of WhatsApp groups in our neighborhood as well that we all that all of the residents are on. And, we had an absolute fantastic response from them. People just literally, I think our doorbell is glad that it could rest. And, there was just people dropping off, bedding and pillows and blankets and mattresses and food and, I think the general response from our neighbors, at least in this area, was absolutely fantastic. And people were phoning us from far and wide saying, can we contribute? Have they got food? Have they got clothes? Whatever the case may be. So, yeah, it was just absolutely fantastic response we got.
Did you have enough hot water to give all these kids a bath?
Yes, we did. So yeah, they. I think a lot of them were pretty tired and exhausted after the Friday. So I think most of them just sort of crashed, and they slept until Saturday morning. Saturday morning at about, I think it was about 7:30 in the morning, they asked us to if they could actually use our pool and swim a little bit. And I said, it's a little bit cold at 7:30 in the morning, but yeah, about 50 minutes later and about 50 requests later, I said, yeah, you guys can go for it. And they had an absolute blast in the pool. I think the last child got out of the pool at about 5:30 in the afternoon. So they basically swam the entire day, right through lunchtime, and just before supper time, the last boy actually got out of the pool. So they had an absolute blast.
And now all of this time, you were watching events at Munsieville. So I believe that on Saturday morning, another protest started up.
That's correct. So obviously the Friday night with the police driving back a lot of the protesters and so forth. Saturday morning we spoke to Hife and Irene again. Hife actually went to the kind of group of people that were protesting, and he kind of said to them, listen guys, what's happening, you know, and when are you guys now going to start calming down and so forth with regards to the protests? And they basically said to Hife, listen, we're not going to stop until they leave and they don't disconnect our electricity. Would you guys stand with us? And Hife and Irene said, yes, we will stand with you, because obviously there are only 3 houses that have electricity within Munsieville that I'm aware of, at least. So obviously it would benefit them as well if they would attract enough attention for the municipality to actually distribute legal electricity to them all. So they kept us in constant update with us with regards to the situation. And then on Saturday morning, it flared up again. So then the second round of protests started. Funny enough, I suppose I would call them the white squatters' neighbours that kind of live in the street directly next to where Hife and Irene and them stay. They actually formed a group at the entrance of the white area. And they guided the protesters away, so they actually protected the white squatters, if you can put it that way. So that was obviously something that just showed us that color doesn't really make a difference. It's how you get along with the with your fellow neighbors and so forth. And Hife and Irene are I think it just shows their integrity as human beings. Often when they have enough, for instance, clothes and food and so forth as well, they distribute out to the black residents as well. So, and it's those black residents that have built up a mutual respect between themselves, that put their own lives in risk to actually protect the white squatters living in Munsieville, because they know that if there is any additional sponsorships and food and donations and so forth that come through, they benefit from that as well. That was quite an amazing story.
That is the most heartwarming story to come out of all of this. When I read it from Engli, I read a post of hers on that. I almost cried, because one is led to believe that there is no possibility of living peacefully together in South Africa. But it is always the people in the most dire circumstances who help each other.
Definitely, yes. So, so basically that on Saturday evening, Hife informed us that the protesters have now sort of calmed down and so forth, but he wasn't sure if there was going to be any flare-ups either during the course of the night or the following morning, Sunday morning. So we were basically prepared to keep the kids for, however many days it took for the protests to kind of calm down, and for kind of peace to be restored to the area,
yes,
so that it would be safe for us to take them back. So we were actually surprised on Sunday morning when Ihu let us know that everything has now been cleared up and cleaned up, and everybody's now calm, and there's no more protest happening. So that's when we managed to arrange with one of the people that actually popped in on Saturday to have a look at the kids and see if they could help out. They own a construction company that does roofing and so forth, and because of that, they have got quite a few vehicles that they were able to sponsor us with, and we managed to take all of the kids back on Sunday morning, and back to their parents and so forth, which they were glad to see.
I'm sure they were, but I also think, for me, it must have been a very nice little respite for the kids to be swimming and having a calm life, but it's also very sad to go from that back to Munsieville, don't you think?
Yes, definitely. We obviously interacted a lot with the kids when they were here, and we spoke to them about their future plans and those types of things. And some of the comments that we got from the kids were actually pretty sad. One child commented and actually asked my wife Esmeralda if we bought the house with the kitchen, because obviously they don't have a kitchen in their homes, and they asked us, it was quite interesting to hear that from them, and it was quite sad in the end as well, and but I think it was a little bit of a break from the sort of depressing situation in sometimes. So I think they enjoyed it as well, and I actually said to my wife that we do need to maybe see about organising another weekend like that, but we'll have it at some sort of a camping ground or some place like that where they can, where there's lots of activities for them to do and so forth, and they can kind of escape that, and potentially even work with the kids, and kind of motivate them to keep going to school, to stay away from drugs and alcohol and those types of things, and hopefully make a success of it, if they so wish.
I'm going to cry. I just think to see that good came out of all this evil is it's a fabulous thing to see. The survival spirit, the absolute spirit of the people that can turn this potential disaster into a good thing and make future good things come from it. It was really a nice thing to see. So, Emily, how were you and Munsieville involved in this whole performance?
Okay, the weekend before, we went to visit Munsieville because I'm staying in Krugersdorp and I wanted to go and visit there for a long time now. I decided so on Saturday, and I met all the people, and I met Lizelle Milan from Moores Foundation, and it was so wonderful to see the spirit of those people, staying in that circumstances. They're smiling and hugging you, and it's so lovely having you, and it was just wonderful. And when this all happened, Lizelle phoned me Friday afternoon and said to me, listen, our people in Munsieville is in danger. Please help. So I just went on the Munsieville page and started asking for people to help us. But unfortunately, as I said on my program, that most of Krugersdorp's people weren't on social media because I couldn't get anybody to help me. And I was really upset about that. Because I was sitting waiting for my husband to come home because he won't let me drive there by my own. So I was waiting for him to come home from work. And I was so frustrated because I wanted to get there and just go and help. And now I'm sitting here in front of a Facebook page with how many people on it, especially from Krugersdorp side, and nobody's willing to come and help me.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, a lot of people started phoning me and sending me inboxes stating that, no, but this and this person is saying that this is nonsense. And so we're not going to help because we know this person. And unfortunately, that's the bad side of it, and we don't want to concentrate on the negative. But this is what happened to us. And I was so upset because I got there just after everybody was out already. So my part in it all was actually very frustrating.
Yeah. Yeah, the keyboard cowboys are the people that drive me the most insane because they take your time and attention away from where it is really needed, doing something about the situation. And they're also demanding. They want answers right now. But what they're going to do with that answer, I don't know, because they're not going to do anything constructive. So it's a very difficult situation, and even made worse by the fact that people called it out as a hoax, and
that made me furious. I was so mad about that.
Yes.
You call it a hoax. Why don't you get into your car? You're near enough. Get into your car, drive there, and go and see for yourself.
Do something to help.
We did that.
Do something to help.
We did that, and we saw all these people that were still staying behind. Lizelle was still waiting for Hugo to let us know if there's some more people that wants to come out. And I saw Anne-Marie Labuskagni that got hurt in this whole situation.
Yes, we
that
need
actually
to speak
was
about
assaulted.
that.
I saw her by the roadside after somebody already went in and took her out. He managed to get her out.
Because the ambulance would not go and get her.
Yeah, no, they won't, because they're just scared, because they know in situations like this, as Quentin stated before, that their vehicle might be attacked and even burned down.
So, Engel, please tell us what happened to this young lady, because honestly, it's beyond me how these things happen. What actually happened to her now that things are calmer and we have a better, clearer view of the event?
I haven't had the time to speak to her personally, but I spoke to her friend that was accompanying her on Friday evening, Tracy. She told me that they were walking from one side to another. I don't know why and how, because she was still in a state of shock at that time. But they were walking towards Irene's home or whatever. I couldn't understand about this. And all of a sudden, because those people were driven back into Munsieville, now they've formed a lot of smaller groups. Okay, now you don't know if these guys are rioters or they're just going on their own business.
Yes.
So all of a sudden, a couple of guys grabbed her and started hitting her and beating her, kicking her in the back, on the head, everywhere. And Tracy made alarm, and people came out to come and help her. And they took her into Irene's house, and that's where they waited for this Wally guy with his bakkie to come and get them out.
So, oh, wow. So now this kid could have any kind of injuries, because as I understand it, she couldn't move her hands and her legs at that stage.
There wasn't any feeling in her fingers and toes.
So we don't know whether she has got neck injuries, spinal injuries. We don't know at this stage.
Yeah.
But you have to get her out into one of these dreadful state hospitals without hurting her worse.
Yeah, I don't know. They took her out, and I know that it was Yvette that was looking after her on the roadside until the ambulance came and took her to one of our hospitals, if you can call it that.
Yvette is from the sector policing in Krugersdorp, and she assisted the young girl and trying to stabilize her until she could get to the ambulance and be transported to the hospital.
Yes.
So right. So now for all these naysayers that were saying we're just trying to make money out of this, we didn't know whether this girl was badly injured or whether there were going to be further injuries for other people. And we all know the state of the state hospitals in South Africa. You literally go there to die, end of story. So, was it not proactive on the part of people who said, we need donations? Because if this child had spinal injuries or neck injuries, she deserved the best of care possible, which you do not get in a state hospital.
I agree. Definitely not the hospital definitely not the hospital the way they took her. I mean, a lot of our people that we know died there with the flu or whatever.
So it was proactive to say, we need donations. We don't know how long the situation is going to last. We don't know how many injuries there are. or are likely to be. We don't know how long we are going to have to feed, clothe, and house these children. We don't know, but we do know that if there are injuries, we will need money to get them good medical care. We will need money to feed these children for however long this takes. Now, had we waited until we got reports of 20 other people injured and that this was going to go on for another week and we couldn't feed the children, it would not have been very clever of us, would it?
Definitely not. And if I can tell you this, I was on the Krugersdorp Community Forum this afternoon, late afternoon. I saw somebody wrote there, Munsieville people are planning a major unrest tomorrow. That is actually tomorrow, according to my helper. So somebody that's staying inside is telling the people, listen, there's going to be an unrest again. So we must be
prepared.
On the alert. Yeah.
Prepared for it, so that you don't get caught taking the children through the bush in the middle of the night.
In the same situation as Friday night, exactly.
Exactly.
Because they're not going to rest. It's been going on for weeks now. And now it just got very close to the people inside Munsieville. Normally they take it outside of Munsieville. They took it to our town, Krugersdorp, where they march up to the municipal buildings and there's rioting and burning of tires and everything. Now it actually happened inside Munsieville as well.
So, although things are peaceful right now, this could flare up again tonight.
Yeah,
tonight it could flare up again. And you need to have a plan and the resources to not be caught on the back foot, as it were.
Yeah. Because a lot of people phoned me on Friday evening. Yeah, a lot of people phoned me on Friday evening and said to me, okay, if you can pay my petrol, if you can do this, I've got armed response, but you will need to pay me. We haven't got the funds ready yet. I mean, we've only been busy collecting for 4 months now, and we've been giving it out already. So now we're sitting in the situation, we've got help, but we need to pay for it, and we couldn't.
Well, there's always more demand than supply of money, isn't there?
Exactly.
Always. Especially in these kinds of situations. And that's why I came up with the idea of having an emergency fund where it will be used solely for evacuation and transport of people in violent situations, food for the children, and medical help, medical assistance.
Yeah, that's a brilliant idea. Look at what happened.
We have to have something in place already. We cannot go through this again without being 100% prepared, and you never will be 100% prepared.
No,
but at least we will have some funds available from every organization, all of us. Having a backup is very, very important.
Because this was a learning curve for all of you, wasn't it?
Yeah, definitely it was.
I spoke to Esmeralda just after she'd spoken to the people from Munsieville, and that was just after 4. And I heard the shots, and I was absolutely horrified. I'm very, very far away. And I can tell you, I went ice cold. I told Esmeralda, you've got to get those kids out. You've got to get those kids out immediately. It was really bad.
But that is so much more easily said than done, Lee, because Ainley went out immediately with an appeal for help, and there was dead silence.
And so did I, and it was so difficult. You get people phoning from all over the country up until 2-3 o'clock on Saturday morning, asking us, listen, what's happening? Is this a hoax? And our phones didn't stop ringing. All I did was relay some of the phone calls to Esmeralda. I'm sure this poor girl didn't know Arthur from Martha with all the phone calls, and then of course trying to get transport out to Munsieville to evacuate the women and children. So it was an absolute nightmare for all of us. And we had absolutely no sleep either.
No, I know. I can't imagine being in any one of your shoes at that moment. But it did teach a lesson that we need a coordinated group that will deal with the phone calls and the social media messages, and you need a backup plan. But who could have foreseen it? I mean, we know there's violence, and we know it's possible to spill over, but it happened so fast. And what amazes me, sitting so far away, is how quickly a few people jumped into action and made this happen.
A big difference, yeah.
It restores my faith in humanity, which is sadly lacking right now. But you do need to have a person that will field all the junk phone calls so that the people who are actually involved and doing and trying to get resources together are left free to deal with that. But that is also way easier said than done, because you don't know where this is going to spring out next time. So you might have the resources ready for Munsieville, but it's somewhere in the Cape that this happens. And your help is still critically needed, whether it's next door to you or not.
That's true. And also, Ingrid, you think that you didn't do anything, but my dear, just the fact that you shared and you stood by the lines and you redirected the people, you answered the phone calls, you did the time, and that is vital. It was amazing, and it left Esmeralda and Quentin and their team to evacuate the people. You and I shielded everybody and gave us the information and tried to get the donations through with food and whatnot to them. So your part was important.
No, it was just very frustrating for me because I'm sitting in Krugersdorp,
I can understand that.
A stone's throw away from them, and I can't do anything.
And you're helpless.
Yeah.
Yeah,
but at least I got there and I saw the girl, and I can tell everybody that it's true because I saw it with my own eyes.
And please, could somebody give an update on her, because that is one of the things I've been asked the most.
I spoke to Yehu yesterday afternoon. He was just fetching her from the hospital. She's fine. The feeling in her toes and fingers are back. There was
swelling.
Lee helped on this swelling.
Swelling, yeah.
Swelling.
Yeah, swelling on the spine. And because of that, when this swelling went down, she could feel her fingers and toes again. But she's still stiff, and the neck is very sore, and the spine is still sore.
Concussion as well.
Yeah, concussion as well. But she will be okay.
So all in all, a miracle happened there. Yeah. You people coordinated a rescue, which is a huge thing. We're not living in a war zone, We are living in a supposed first world country, and you get dumped in your laps with one phone call. You get war zone conditions where you have to evacuate women and children. And you did it. You did it despite the frustrations, despite the lack of help, despite everything. You did it. You deserve an enormous pat on the back, because it could have been so much worse.
That's true. That's true. And I take I'm absolutely blown away by the World Foundation with what they did. I am so proud to know them. I've known Esmeralda for a little while, and I'm really chuffed with what the organization has been doing. Really good job.
Well, that's another good thing that has come from this potential disaster, is that more organizations are joining hands. And Lee, that is one of my biggest battle cries. We need to join hands. Forget about the petty differences. Join hands,
I agree.
Because we cannot do it alone. No one organization can do it alone. But if we join hands and work together, then we can work miracles, as you did this weekend. For me, sitting here in Texas, it was an absolute miracle what you people did. I was distraught. How are you going to achieve this? But you did. And you got the children home safely. And you got them home. You kept them safe and happy in what could have been a very traumatic time when they were away from their parents and were probably worried sick. So instead of that, you gave them normal children things to do. You fed them grandly. I've seen the photographs of the breakfast. I sat here on Sunday morning crying like a baby, thinking of these kids having that marvelous spread and just creating an island of peace in the middle of trauma. And that is what you people pulled together immediately and under terrible circumstances. And I'm so proud of you. I am so very, very proud of you because you have just reached across the aisle and said it's not about me and it's not about my organization and it's not about fame and press for me. It is about the children. And what you did was heroic and it was incredible. And the world needs to look at this saving of your own people. You're doing it yourself, but you need help in order to continue to be able to do this.
Correct.
That's
and Karen, I think the reason these three organizations work so well together is because we're not in competition to see who gets the most likes on Facebook for their photos that they post, or who can bring, the biggest load of donations, to the people or anything. We're not in it for the fame. We're not in it for the fortune. It's not about publicity.
Yes.
That.
And giving
it's to help
our people.
Fellow men. Exactly. Yeah.
Correct.
And you know what? You will get negative people out there, and they will try and demotivate you, and they will try and nitpick on everything that you say and do. But at the end of the day, if they really take the time and the effort to get off their backsides and actually get in their car and drive there and see the conditions that the people live in, if they do not want to do that or make that effort, then they're not worthwhile giving your time to.
No, they don't deserve you don't need to waste your time arguing with them and arguing the pros and cons of what you're doing, because you are too busy doing.
Yes.
And we need more people like you that, as you say, will get off their backside, get out from behind their computer, and go out there and do something. Make a difference instead of make a noise.
Yeah, that's what I always say. You know me, Karen. You know me quite well. And I believe in other organizations as well. Yes, we are fairly big. We're not the biggest, but that's not what it's about. It's about if I can help another organization, to me, it not only takes a little bit of the load off of us, but everybody deserves a little bit of sunshine in their lives. And I think what Millions Stemmer for Steve are doing and the VAS Foundation are doing is absolutely marvelous. And just because we are much bigger than, for example, VAS Foundation, doesn't mean that their job and the work that they do is less important. In fact, it's even more important. I absolutely applaud them because they no matter what, they still do.
Absolutely. And I would like to explain, not just to you, but to our listeners, that Lee's South African Family Relief Project is the charity that I support. But that does not mean that the money goes only to her project. She gave money to feed the children that night and the following morning. The fact that we promote her foundation does not mean that these other people do not benefit by your donations to South African Family Relief Project. It is easier for me to not dilute my message. Give your donations to South African Family Relief Project. But as you have seen from this program, that money goes where it's needed. Wherever it is needed, they will call on Lee, and Lee will help if she is able to. But she's only able to with the help of your donations. So it is not that I am being partisan or biased or refuse to assist other charities whatsoever. I just find it easier to direct your donations to one area where I know, without a shadow of doubt, if it is needed, it will go where it is needed.
Yes, because I feel that donations can go to Munsieville for Steve or to Bus Foundation. We're all doing the same job. We're all focusing on the same cause. And if I can help another organization like Munsieville for Steve or Bus Foundation, I'll do it with the greatest of pleasure, because that's what the money was intended for in the first place, is to help our cause. And if I can do that, that's what it's about.
Okay, we have about 5 minutes left, and what I'd like to do is if you could just tell us about what is happening on Sunday. Should there be no more protests and outbreaks at Munsieville, what we plan to have happen on Sunday at Munsieville.
Okay. Winter is nearing very, very fast, and I decided to do a food drive. So mainly we're going to drop off a huge donation of food, which will be distributed to the people. We'll do another one as soon as winter has started, but we'll add blankets and a blanket drive as well. But Munsieville for Steve and our organization will be together at Munsieville on Sunday, 9 o'clock onwards, where we will treat the children to some sweetie packs, and we will hand over much needed food and some clothing to the residents of the camp. We will also be visited by Steve Wolfmeyer and his lovely wife, who will come and just spend a little time with the residents of the camp.
Thank you very much, Lee, for that, because I think that is a much-needed bit of relief for those people. But I need to stress again that although we are talking about Munsieville tonight, it is not the only camp, and it is not the only place that these people help. They help at over 480 camps countrywide, and our help outside of South Africa is desperately needed. So if you could feel it in your heart, the need to help these people, run on over to their webpage, South African Family Relief Project, SAFRP, with another SA at the end, .org. They have a donate button. And as you have seen from 3 organizations working together and all speaking together on this show, you will see that it is not a one charity that you are supporting. You are supporting need all over South Africa for anybody that needs it. Thank you all.
And they are welcome to contact us should they want to donate also directly to Bus Foundation and to Munsieville for Steve. I will put it up onto our website and on our page. We all work hand in hand together. If you want to donate directly to them, I will send you the information, Cora.
Thank you very much. And thank all 3 of you for this fantastic thing that you joined hands and made possible. And thank you for the work that you are doing in South Africa. I can only wish you the best of luck. And rest assured that my voice is yours at any time you need it. I was posting constant updates on Facebook. As Lee fed them to me, I was posting them. I posted your plea for funds, Esmeralda and Quentin. I've often had Munsieville for Steve people on the show. If you ever need any help whatsoever in a situation like this or any other situation, I'm here. You have my contact details. Just shout, and I will do what I can from this side. Thank you very much for joining us tonight, because I think this was a very important show, not only to show what danger these people are in, but to show how a few good people can pull a miracle out of a hat.
Thank you for the opportunity, Gordon.
It's my absolute pleasure. It's my pleasure, people. It's all I can do for you. I have my voice and I have an audience, but other than that, there's not much I can contribute. But if you ever need me, I am here. So,
thank you.
As always, God bless South Africa, God bless America, and God help the world we live in today. And once more, I'm playing out with my personal contribution and my one act of defiance, destem. Thank you.